"Why don't you little street punks go back to where you came from?" That was the first thing the bully yelled loud enough for the whole cafeteria to freeze. But what no one expected was what'd next. One girl, one boy. Siblings. Black, quiet, and new to the school. They didn't shout, they didn't cry. They simply looked at each other and stood up. What happened in the next 5 minutes would flip the entire school hierarchy upside down and leave one racist bully picking his pride up off the floor. This isn't just a story about bullying. It's a story about how hidden strength shatters loud ignorance. As Muhammad Ali once said, "It's not bragging if you can back it up." If this story makes you think, feel, or even rage, drop a comment, share your take, and hit subscribe, because sometimes the quietest voices deliver the loudest justice. "Get away from our table," the boy snarled, arms crossed as he towered over the lunch tray. Jasmine didn't move. She stood still, her voice calm but firm. "This is a public table, Jason. You don't own it." "Maybe not," he sneered, glancing at his friends. "But we don't sit with trash, especially not trash that doesn't even match." Laughter erupted from behind him. His crew, 4 boys in Letterman jackets, looked like they had stepped right out of a high school bully starter pack. Beside Jasmine stood her younger brother Malik, clutching his tray, face unreadable. He was only 14, quiet, wiry, the kind of kid teachers forgot about until he aced a math test or did something unexpected in gym. They weren't twins, but people often mistook them for it. Same rich brown skin, same fierce eyes, though Jasmine's were always lit with fire, and Malik's smoldered steady and slow. This wasn't their first encounter with Jason and his crew at Ridgewood High, a school nestled in a nice suburb that still didn't know what to do with kids who looked like them. It started with whispers, comments about their hair, clothes, skin. Then someone shoved Malik in the hallway. Once, Jasmine's locker was painted over with the words "Go back." They reported it. The office said it was being looked into. Nothing happened. Today was supposed to be different. Jasmine and Malik had made a pact, no more backing down. They trained 6 days a week at Master Ito's dojo, earning black belts not just in technique but in discipline, restraint, and power. But they'd never used it here, never let anyone at school know. Until now. "Move," Jason said again, leaning in closer. His breath smelled like soda and cheap gum. "Or I'll move you." Jasmine didn't flinch. "Don't touch me." The room felt suddenly smaller, like all the air had been sucked out. Nearby students had stopped chewing. A hush fell over the lunchroom. Then Jason's hand shot out and smacked Malik's tray to the floor. The clatter echoed. That was the climax. Without thinking, Malik moved fast. He wasn't a talker. He wasn't loud. But in that moment, his training kicked in. He pivoted on his heel, ducked under Jason's swing, and in one fluid motion, swept the bully's legs out from under him. Jason crashed to the ground, stunned. Jasmine stepped between them before the others could react. "Back off," she said, voice steady but loud enough for everyone to hear. "You've been pushing us for months. We're done." One of the bullies tried to step forward, but hesitated. Jasmine didn't move, didn't blink. Her posture alone said, "Try it. Just try it." Mr. Carlson, the assistant principal, burst through the doors seconds later, red-faced and breathing hard. "What's going on here?" Everyone pointed at Malik. Everyone except the quiet kid in the corner who had filmed the whole thing. The video spread before Carlson could finish yelling. By 7th period, it had gone viral, at least within the school. Kids who'd never spoken to Jasmine or Malik were coming up to them, whispering, "That was badass, and I didn't know y'all could fight like that." The principal tried to suspend Malik. Tried, but the footage told the truth, clear as day. They'd been provoked, bullied, attacked, and they defended themselves calmly, cleanly, and in a hint of rage. After school, Jasmine and Malik sat on the steps out front, backpacks slung low, watching the sun dip over the parking lot. "Think they'll mess with us again?" Malik asked. "No," Jasmine said, with a faint smile. "They finally saw who we really are." He nodded slowly. "About time." Their resolution wasn't revenge, it was visibility, and that might have been the most powerful move of all. "Did you hear?" a girl whispered near the lockers the next morning. She blocked 3 punches without even blinking. "Dude, I saw it." The little one, Malik, flipped Jason like it was a movie or something. The rumor mill was working overtime. Jasmine and Malik couldn't walk 5 feet without someone staring, pointing, or whispering. The hallway felt different now, not cold but charged, like people were waiting to see what happened next. Jasmine tried to ignore it. She kept her eyes forward, books hugged to her chest. Malik, headphones in, walked just behind her like he always did. They had a routine, but today, nothing felt routine. "Hook!" That's when Coach Everett, the head of the varsity wrestling team, stopped them in the hall. "Jasmine, Malik," he said, his voice even, eyes calculating. "Got a minute?" She exchanged a glance with her brother. "Sure." Coach Everett led them into the empty gym, where sunlight poured through the high windows, casting long streaks of light on the floor. "I saw the footage," he said, arms crossed. "And I'm gonna be honest, I was impressed." Jasmine didn't say anything. Malik just blinked, waiting. Coach continued, "You two ever considered joining a team? Wrestling, martial arts exhibition? Something that lets you use what you clearly know how to do?" Rising action. Jasmine raised an eyebrow. "Is that allowed?" Coach smiled slightly. "Self-defense is one thing, but what you two did, that was precision, control. That's not rage. That's training." "We don't fight for sport," Malik said, voice calm. "We fight to stop fights." Coach nodded. "I respect that, but sometimes, being visible on a mat in a ring can show people what you're really about. Just think about it." That afternoon, word had gotten to Jason's parents, and instead of silence, they came in loud, demanding suspensions, threatening lawsuits, calling the entire situation reverse bullying. Climax. The next morning, Jasmine and Malik were called into the principal's office. Mr. Darnell, the principal, sat behind his desk, his face tight with forced concern. "There's been some noise from Jason's parents. They're accusing you two of assault. Have you seen the video?" Jasmine asked. He sighed. "Yes. But perception matters. They're saying it was excessive." "He threw the first punch," Malik said. "I know." There was a long pause. Then something shifted in Mr. Darnell's face. He looked down at his folded hands. "You two are good kids. Straight A students. No behavioral issues. And frankly," he leaned in, "you showed restraint most adults don't have." Falling action. The school board reviewed the footage. The community started talking, not just students, but parents. Jasmine and Malik's dojo even posted a statement online, standing behind their actions and emphasizing their years of discipline, their awards, their ethics. Then came the kicker. Jason's father filed a formal complaint with the district. But in a twist no one expected, an anonymous parent leaked Jason's prior disciplinary record. Dozens of warnings, 2 past fights swept under the rug. The tide turned. Fast. Resolution. 2 weeks later, Jasmine was invited to speak at a community town hall about bullying and self-defense. Malik sat in the front row, watching silently. She told their story not with anger, but with clarity, about how long they'd kept their heads down, about how silence never protected them. "I don't want to be known as the girl who fights," she said. "I want to be known as the girl who stood her ground when it finally mattered." The audience rose to their feet in applause. Outside, as the sun set behind the community center, Jasmine and Malik stood side by side. They weren't just students anymore. They were something more. Symbols, not of violence, but of strength, of standing tall, together. "Hey, look who's famous now." That voice, mocking, greasy, came from behind them in the cafeteria. Jasmine didn't need to turn around to know it was Travis, Jason's best friend and a smaller, meaner shadow of him. "Hook." Malik tensed. He had just unwrapped his sandwich, but now his hands were clenched on the table. Jasmine placed her hand gently on his wrist. "Don't," she whispered. But Travis wasn't done. He shoved a tray roughly onto their table, knocking over Malik's bottle of water. "Oops," he grinned. "Didn't see you there, ninja boy." Jasmine stood slowly, calm, but her eyes locked onto his with steel. "You've got 2 seconds to walk away." Travis didn't. Not yet. Rising action. The lunchroom watched, silent. The recent events had turned Jasmine and Malik into campus legends. But legends still had enemies, especially among those who'd gotten away with cruelty for years. "Don't think just because you went viral you run this place," Travis growled. "You humiliated Jason. You're next." "Jason humiliated himself," Malik said, voice quiet but cutting. "We just stayed standing." A lunch aide appeared. Sensing trouble, Travis backed off, but not before tossing out one more sneer. "This isn't over." Later that week, Jasmine found her locker vandalized. Red marker smeared across the metal. "Thug butt" in big angry letters. She stared at it for a moment, then pulled out a tissue, wiped what she could, and kept moving. But it wasn't just her. Malik's bike tires were slashed in the school parking lot. One of their sensei's flyers was torn off the bulletin board and replaced with a crude drawing. They reported everything. The school promised to investigate, but Jasmine knew the truth. Justice only came when you forced it to. Climax. That Friday, Jasmine found a folded note in her locker. No name, just 3 words. "Stay silent, or else." She showed it to Malik. He didn't say anything, just folded it and tucked it into his pocket. His jaw was tight. That night, he didn't sleep. He paced the apartment, fists clenched. Jasmine heard the soft sounds of their mother crying behind her bedroom door. "I thought it was over," he finally said, voice hoarse. "But they're not scared of what we did. They're scared of who we are." Jasmine nodded. "Then we show them." They spent the next 2 days editing together a video, not just of the fight, but of their story, their training, clips of the dojo, old competitions, newspaper clippings of local tournaments, interviews with their instructors, their classmates, even Mr. Darnell. At the end of the video, Jasmine spoke straight to camera. "We didn't want to be known, but now that we are, we're using our voices. For everyone too scared to speak." They posted it Sunday night. By Monday morning, it had 200,000 views. Falling action. The story spread. Local news stations picked it up. The mayor's office tweeted support. Parents began emailing the district in droves, demanding action, not against Jasmine and Malik, but against the system that allowed bullying to flourish while punishing kids who dared to stand up. Under pressure, the school launched a formal investigation, not just into the recent harassment, but into the long history of racial and physical intimidation on campus. The note, fingerprints, matched Travis. The vandalism, surveillance footage confirmed. Travis was suspended. Jason, who had returned quietly the week before, was transferred out of district after renewed scrutiny of his record. Resolution: Jasmine and Malik were called into the auditorium that Friday morning, not for punishment, but for a surprise. Coach Everett, standing at the podium, announced that the school would be launching a new student-led martial arts and anti-bullying program, and Jasmine and Malik had been asked to lead it. The crowd erupted in cheers. Later, outside, as the spring wind brushed through the trees, Jasmine turned to her brother. "Still think we should have stayed silent?" Malik cracked a smile. "Not a chance. They didn't ask for this fight, but now that it was here, they weren't backing down. They were just getting started." The gymnasium was packed tighter than a championship basketball game. Phones were out, cameras were rolling, and whispers ran wild through the crowd. No one could believe it. Jasmine and Malik, the kids who once ate lunch alone, were now standing center stage beneath a banner that read "Unity Through Strength, Student Martial Arts Leadership Ceremony." Malik adjusted the collar of his gown nervously. Jasmine, standing beside him, whispered, "Relax, we earned this." But Malik's eyes scanned the crowd. He wasn't looking for praise, he was looking for Jason. Rising action. Since their video went viral, everything had changed. Invitations poured in from schools, community centers, even local news outlets. They'd spoken on podcasts, led self-defense classes, and even been honored at City Hall. Yet with every bit of recognition, there was a shadow. Malik had received 3 anonymous texts warning him to watch his back. Jasmine's social media had been spammed with hateful comments. They both knew not everyone was happy about what they stood for. Still, they kept going, kept training, kept showing up. But something about today felt off. The school had arranged a showcase match. Jasmine and Malik would do a demonstration with volunteers from the student body, many of whom had started attending their after-school sessions. But at the last minute, the coordinator whispered something into Coach Everett's ear, and his face tightened. "What's wrong?" Jasmine asked. "Change of plans," the coach said carefully. One of the parents insisted his son be allowed to participate. Jasmine's gut sank. She didn't even need to ask. Climax. Jason stepped out from the hallway, already in uniform. His smirk was as crooked as ever. "Miss me?" he muttered under his breath as he passed Malik. The crowd gasped. Most hadn't seen him since the transfer. But here he was, somehow back for one final confrontation. Principal Gonzalez stepped forward awkwardly. The district approved his return under conditions. He wants to apologize through action, not words. Jasmine's eyes narrowed. "This isn't a game." "No," Jason said, stepping onto the mat. "It's justice." The demonstration began. It was supposed to be controlled, fluid, a showcase of discipline. But Jason had no interest in peace. The moment Malik took his stance, Jason lunged, full force, fists flying. Not a demonstration, an attack. Gasps erupted. Jasmine stepped forward, but Malik waved her off. Jason came at him again, reckless and furious. But Malik didn't falter. He blocked, pivoted, parried. His moves were sharp, grounded in control. He didn't strike back with rage. He countered with discipline. And then in one swift motion, Malik swept Jason to the mat and pinned him, without ever landing a punch. Silence. Then, cheers, falling action. Jason lay stunned. Not from injury, but from humiliation. Malik stood, breathing hard, then reached out a hand. Jason didn't take it, but Malik left it there anyway, steady and firm. "This isn't about revenge," he said to the crowd. "It's about rising above it." Later, Jason's father stormed out, angry at the spectacle, but Jason remained, quietly gathering his things. For the first time, there was no defiance in his eyes, just shame and maybe something else. Understanding. Resolution. After the ceremony, Principal Gonzalez approached Jasmine and Malik with a proposal. "How would you feel about making this program permanent?" he asked. "District-wide, paid student leaders, real funding. We want you two to build it." Jasmine blinked. Malik's jaw dropped. "You serious?" she asked. "Very." A week later, Jasmine and Malik stood in front of a group of younger students at a neighboring middle school, each pair of eyes wide with hope and admiration. "This isn't just about kicks and punches," Jasmine told them. "It's about knowing who you are, and never letting anyone make you feel less than that." Malik nodded. "And when the world throws you down, get back up stronger." They didn't just survive. They became the leaders they once needed. The city auditorium buzzed with excitement, packed shoulder to shoulder. Parents, teachers, students, even reporters filled every seat. At the front, a polished wooden podium bore the seal of the school district. Overhead, a massive screen read, "Annual Student Leadership Awards, honoring those who inspire change." Hook. Backstage, Jasmine adjusted her blazer, while Malik tightened his tie, looking every bit the young leader he had become. Neither of them spoke. They didn't have to. They'd come a long way from being bullied and underestimated. And tonight, they weren't just being honored. They were the keynote speakers. "Ready?" Jasmine finally asked, flashing a smile. "Let's give them something to remember," Malik replied. Rising action. When their names were announced, the crowd erupted. They walked out to a standing ovation. The lights hit their faces. But they stood tall, eyes scanning the audience filled with faces of those who had once doubted, dismissed, or defended them. Malik began. 2 years ago, we were just two kids trying to disappear into the background. Jasmine continued. Now we stand here because we refuse to stay silent, because we believe that strength doesn't always look like fists. It can look like standing your ground with grace. The speech wove their story, from the cafeteria stairs to the viral video, from Jason's ambush to their district-wide self-defense program. It wasn't about revenge. It was about visibility, dignity, empowerment. But not everyone was clapping. Near the back of the auditorium, Jason sat alone. Climax. He had returned quietly months ago. No more outbursts. No more fights. Most students avoided him. But Jasmine and Malik had insisted he should be welcome too. That decision had sparked controversy. Some parents even complained. But tonight, Jason stood up slowly. At first, no one noticed. Then his voice echoed through the auditorium. I'd like to say something. Gasps rippled across the room. Even Jasmine and Malik looked stunned. Jason walked down the aisle toward the stage. He stopped halfway and looked directly at the crowd. I used to think power meant control, he said, voice shaking. That fear earned respect. I hurt people because I didn't know how to face my own. I'm not proud of who I was, but I am grateful to the two people I once tried to tear down. Jasmine, Malik, you didn't just defend yourselves, you taught the rest of us how to grow. Silence, and then one clap, then another, until the entire room rose to their feet, not just for Jasmine and Malik, but for what accountability looked like. Falling action. After the ceremony, Jason approached the two quietly. He extended a hand. I'm not asking for friendship, he said, but I needed to say thank you. Jasmine took it first. Malik followed. It takes strength to apologize, Malik said, and even more to change. Later that night, social media exploded. Videos of the event spread across the internet. Hashtags like Rise with Respect and Jasmine and Malik trended nationwide. Schools from other states reached out, asking to adopt their curriculum. They weren't just local heroes anymore. They were national voices. Resolution. Months passed. Jasmine graduated as valedictorian and received a scholarship to study education policy. Malik was accepted into a top pre-law program, inspired by what justice could look like when wielded with empathy. But before they left, they returned to their old middle school one last time. The gym looked smaller now, the mats worn, but the faces bright, eager, curious, looked just like theirs once had. Jasmine held up a belt, white, freshly folded. To the next generation, she said, handing it to a tiny sixth grader. You're not here to fight, you're here to stand tall. Malik smiled. And remember, your story doesn't end when someone knocks you down. It begins when you rise. Outside, the sun dipped behind the school building, casting long shadows across the parking lot. But for Jasmine and Malik, the path ahead had never been clearer or brighter. Strength doesn't always roar. It sometimes whispers, try again tomorrow. That's the lesson. Jasmine and Malik left us with, their story reminds us that silence in the face of injustice is never neutral. It's permission. Real courage is not about fighting fire with fire, but about lighting a torch others can follow. In a world that too often judges by skin instead of soul, they showed us how grace, resilience, and standing up, not striking back, can flip the power dynamic. Like Dr. King once said, darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. If their journey moved you, let's keep that light going. Drop a comment with your thoughts, hit like if this story struck a chord, and subscribe, not just to hear stories but to help carry them forward. You're not just an audience, you're a voice in this movement, and we need your voice now more than ever.